walk through Times Square today, there's a certain energy, a certain excitement in the air. And that really is as a result of a lot of the positive programming, positive experiences, positive communication that we have done to celebrate all of our successes over the last couple of years in Times Square.
Community First is a street outreach initiative. We're truly meeting people where they're at. And so Community First utilizes community navigators with both shared and lived experiences to go out and establish these connections with community members and build that rapport. Ultimately, when we are able to make those larger connections to things like housing, substance use support, mental health support, it's much more sustainable for that individual. So Community First came out of a need to really respond to some of the different societal issues and public safety concerns that were under a spotlight and kind of under a microscope early in the pandemic.
The only thing with the town here we see is the Times Square Alliance cleaners. That's it. Governor Andrew Cuomo extending the so-called New York pause for at least another month.
And this all comes as the debate over when and how to reopen the economy intensifies.
Times Square is a shapeshifter. It's constantly changing in response to what's going on in the world. It captures the life cycles and represents the life cycles of the city. We saw that with crime in the 1990s and the comeback from that. We saw that with terrorism at 9/11 and the comeback from that. We saw that with COVID and then it coming back. There's always going to be a sense in which, and a fear, that this city and Times Square just aren't going to make it. And those of us who know Times Square, those of us who are part of this community, believe in the resilience of this city and of this place.
It was very important during the pandemic to create the greatest Times Square experience possible. We launched TSQ Live, where we brought small-scale programming to our plazas 5 nights a week. We partnered with Playbill and the Broadway League to bring Curtain Up, and we brought a Ferris wheel into Times Square. We found new ways to celebrate our old traditions in a safe and responsible manner. We were able to celebrate our annual solstice yoga event in 2020, and we also found a way to celebrate New Year's Eve in Times Square.
On my first day, I came into Times Square in a sanitation truck because I started on January 1st. There were 5 buildings in bankruptcy. There were none of these big retail stores. All of those are new. And so we were in deep trouble. And it wasn't until the city, the state, and the business property owners began to work together that we began to see these changes. My greatest moment came, by the way, when one of our board members came to me and said, "Gretchen, guess what I saw in the streets of Times Square today?" And I said, "What?" They said, "A baby carriage." And I thought, hot diggity dog, it's better. And now look at it.
If anything is an indication of how small actions can make enormous differences, it's the actions of the sanitation and security folks, especially in the early years of the Alliance, but also when things got tough, the folks who kept showing up again and again were our operations team.
I'm the sergeant of Times Square Alliance Public Safety Department. We help assist, foster the quality of life, and help manage and safeguard the public space.
We try to, make Times Square safe, clean, and a desirable place to visit. And so we try to just keep it clean so people can appreciate it.
What I feel makes Times Square unique is the people who come to our city. I enjoy meeting new individuals from country to country, state to state. It's exciting.
My primary duty is outreach to help most vulnerable people in Times Square. I connect them to our outreach partners, Breaking Ground, Community First, and other various services.
Times Square is this incredible place where artists can experiment and bring in new, bold, and visionary ideas to the public space. Whether that's Kehinde Wiley presenting his first ever equestrian monument to tackle issues of race and representation, or Pamela Council creating this joyful intervention on Duffy Square in a moment where we are reimagining how we need to connect and be a community. There are many more examples where artists are trying to use the powerful significance of Times Square as a way to leverage dynamic and bold conversations. And I'm not sure if there is an artist that's more synonymous with Times Square than Jane.
I have always been interested in looking for unusual venues to present art, and I feel like it's important to the general public to be given a break every now and then from solid advertising. And the Times Square Alliance started the Midnight Moment 10 years ago. Messages to the public was on one sign, which was the only moving sign in Times Square, but now the Midnight Moment is on 90 screens all around Times Square, so it's an unbelievable opportunity for any artist.
I think there are actually a lot of things that make Times Square unique. The energy, the signage, all the people, the tourists, the people who work here, the people who live here. It's a really unique part of town and perhaps unique in the entire world. My hope is that it continues to become a melting pot for the world, that it's a place where people enjoy each other, enjoy what Times Square and the area has to offer, whether it's theater or other kinds of entertainment or just people watching. Really is an amazing place where people can express themselves in ways that are really heartfelt, sincere, and bring a lot of joy to many people.
The best.
The best.
The best.
The best is yet to come.